Hi, everybody. Tom Esch here, president of Esch Consulting. Welcome to the Case for Construction Culture podcast, balancing safety and profitability. I'm here with Todd Christopherson. Welcome, Todd.
Hi, Tom. I'm happy to be here.
So great to have you. I really have a lot of respect for you, Todd, and have known you a number of years. You are the VP of Ops currently at Darcy, correct?
That's right. Yep.
And you've had quite a career, which I've only known you for part of, but I know you were president and owner of AmCon for, I want to say 27 years. I knew you when you were at SM Henches for about almost 6 years. And I know you've been part of multiple other organizations at executive levels and high levels where you've really been able to influence culture and influence people. So I'm excited to have you on. Even though you're not a classic safety leader, I've had a lot of safety leaders locally here in Minnesota and nationally. You are a guy I deeply respect because of how you've been able to build relationships, make a difference, and really shape culture by your decisions as a leader. Um, so with that, what are you excited about here at Darcy, Todd? Here halfway through the year, a little more than halfway through the year, and a beautiful summer day here in Minnesota. What are you excited about?
Yeah. Very excited about the product that we're delivering for the market. Our founders developed a patented geothermal system that's very different from any of the, say, original or earlier versions of geothermal heating and cooling. And so we're able to deliver a lot more heating and cooling capacity with individual wells. And
Hmm.
very exciting to be part of that. And it's given me an opportunity to work with a lot of contractors and architects and engineers that I've worked with on past projects, but now bringing this new system to the market.
Hmm. That's so exciting. I've only had limited experience with geothermal, but I know when I was living in South Minneapolis, there was a nonprofit, the Green Institute, had
Oh,
geothermal
yeah,
heating, and it was you may remember the Green Institute
sure.
there.
Oh, yeah.
I think this heating system's still there, and that was really amazing to learn about that for the first time. You can heat a building or cool a building just by putting water in the ground at the right depth and having enough wells. It's a very bright, I think, potential renewable resource of energy, the temperature
Right.
of the earth.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Our system's a little different, Tom. I've done some of those that you described, but our system actually, we go down deeper
Hmm.
and we use the groundwater in the aquifers. We circulate that through
That's
a heat
right.
exchanger.
Thank you. That's right.
So
You go
it's,
down into the aquifer. So
yeah, delivers a
that's
lot of
fascinating stuff.
efficiency and yeah,
So fascinating. So that's exciting. That's super exciting. What are the challenges, Todd? Some of the challenges. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty, but as you think about culture, as you think about safety, and I know safety in your world is different than safety in a lot of other general contracting or underground contracting or highway heavy worlds, but it's still always an issue in construction. There's always vehicles moving around. There's always machinery. I'm sure you guys have major drills to drill down and subcontract with people doing. So what are some of the challenges you see as an executive level leader in shaping that safe culture at Darcy?
sure. Well, we are working with most of the large developer, general contractor, design builders in town.
Hmm.
And so we're we're having to make sure that we meet their requirements on a project by project case, and most of
Hmm.
their requirements are equal or more than what OSHA requires. So
Hmm.
it's educating our people to what that specific job requires, and then making sure we, at the minimum, you just have to make sure, don't go out there without your hard hat or your safety vest because we're out on sites working with there's all other trades are working around us and sometimes in tight spaces. And so, we just got to educate our people and our subcontractors to uh, follow those requirements. And sometimes our subcontractors we work with a lot of drillers, and for the most part, they're maybe used to working out in open fields and they're not on, they're out at somebody's cabin or home, and so they're drilling where there's not other trades. And now they insert those companies into places where they're working with 300 other people and other equipment. And so, we just got to make sure we're helping bring them along with, learning and growing in terms of safety.
Could be a challenge, can't it, when you're on site with multiple organizations? I know the GCs I work with often talk about how challenging it is to work with subcontractors and balancing the different values, different cultural styles, different rules, different. Some are super serious about hard hats always and everywhere in a job site. Some have to have safety goggles the minute you step on the job site. Others are a little more lenient. Well, yeah, safety goggles if you're grinding something. Yeah, hard hat if
Yeah,
you're, underneath an overhead load or, and and I don't know if any of that comes up, but that can be challenging stuff, Todd. And from your position, can you impact any of that?
sure. Well, we're a newer company. I don't want to say we're a startup because we're 5 years in now, but
Mm-hmm.
in many respects, we're operating like a startup in terms of our team is growing and
Mm-hmm.
people are asked to do things that maybe isn't in their job description. Often we are a lot of teamwork and stepping in where things need to get done. And so we haven't yet gotten to that point where we have a full-time safety person.
Mm-hmm.
And so as the director of operations and working with our project managers and our field service people and our subcontractors, it does fall on my shoulders to make sure everybody's operating safely and that we're adhering to the all the requirements and just good. I always tell our people, there's things that you can't necessarily control and things that can happen, but the one thing you can't control is putting on your hard hat, your safety
Mm-hmm.
vest, your
Mm-hmm.
hard toe boots every day you show up and keeping them on out there. Just, do the basics, pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the most important thing. And then just, stay diligent, pay attention, stay focused.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you are playing a role in safety, Todd.
Right.
Yeah. And at at what point do you guys think you will bring in a safety person
Well, currently we're
full time?
working with, yeah, it's probably not too far down the road. We're really there is a lot of demand for our product, and that's leading to growth within Darcy and also growth in terms of the numbers of subcontractors we're working with and the numbers of projects we're doing. So I don't think it's too far down the road that we'll have a full-time person
Mm-hmm.
in-house. But
Mm-hmm.
in the meantime, we're using some consulting services and some other things, that are
Mm-hmm.
available.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the challenges you see with quick growth? Because I know you've mentioned that earlier to me, and just now you Darcy's is fairly young, growing quickly, high demand. Are there challenges that come up that you see impacting culture or safety with that quick growth? And what are those?
It's just the normal business challenges of making sure you're bringing the right people in, make sure you're onboarding them well and training them well, and then make sure they're working within your culture, that they share your values and your the way you want to do business, and things like teamwork and integrity and um, just making sure it's a good fit.
Hmm.
Because we can teach them the technical things about the work we do and coach them. But, if somebody comes in and they don't have the same values related to integrity or you're working together as a team, it's harder to teach some of those traits. You really
Hmm.
want to find people that embrace those qualities and it's just a natural for them.
Well, and it's interesting, you guys are fairly new, so you're not like many of the people I'm talking with are with companies that have been around 30 to 100 years, I mean,
Right.
I don't talk to many that are as new as Darcy is, and it must be interesting shaping the culture. And I wanted to ask, how do you define culture, especially in the context, because you've worked with a lot of organizations, Todd, and you're very
Yeah.
experienced. You've seen the ones that have the deep set culture, and you've probably seen some startups or young things, and you're not a startup, but you're still I'm guessing you're still forming the cultural norms that will be defining Darcy down the road. But How would you even define culture as this giant word, this sort of big thing? What's your sense of what culture is as you think about your position there and your role?
Yeah, I think first of all it has to center around, what are your core values as a company, and then looking for
Hmm.
people that share those values. And I I always tell people that, our job as leaders is to set the tone and to help build that culture, but it's every person in the organization has to contribute to that. It's not the leader's job to make the culture, and then you get to come in and work there and enjoy the benefits of it. Each person working within that organization has to um, contribute to that, in terms of working together as a team, and stepping up when somebody else isn't available to do a job to make sure the job gets done, and just supporting each other and looking out for the best interests of our customers to make sure the job is done right. And when you're growing and you don't have all the pieces in place, it sometimes you have to do things that you weren't required to do, and you look for people that really can uh, thrive in that kind of environment and be part of
Hmm.
that.
Hmm. Yeah. And in somebody just yesterday, I was able to keynote the AGC National Safety Conference, and one of the safety leaders there from a company in Wisconsin said and I like what you said about values, about the leaders set the tone, but others have to follow. That's all part of culture. But this guy put it pretty simply with safety. He said, culture in terms of safety is what people do when no one's looking. And that was your
Mm-hmm.
comment about the leaders can set the tone, but the people in the field really, I think, create a lot of the day-to-day culture in the safety culture in the field, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
that's a
spot on. Yeah,
dance between what the leaders say are the core values and what they will permit or what they don't permit, right? Does your best guy get to not wear his hard hat 2 days in a row and have no consequence because he's your best producer, or or is the owner going to do what Lou Holtz did to his best running back when Lou Holtz was coaching at Notre Dame and Tony Brooks didn't came late to practice one time. He did not let him play in one of their key games at the end
hmm
of their season.
yeah,
And a lot of
yeah,
fans were angry. They ended up winning the game because that's kind of Lou Holtz's thing to do miraculous things. But
right,
he laid down the line. He held a tight line. Talk about a tight cultural high expectations in a world like that.
right. I mean, I think that's great leadership, and
Yeah.
you know, you s- you have to be that way. You have to. We see things that don't fit with the culture and who we are as a company. You have to call it out, even if it is the high producers or you just
Yes.
can't accept that because everybody's watching. Everybody in the around there is paying attention and that sees that.
That's right. And people are watching you as the operations director. They're watching a lot of the top level people. And how do you influence outcomes such as worker engagement or quality work or safety? The triangle of quality work, safety, profitability. How do you how in what ways do you influence those outcomes, Todd?
Sure. Well, I think it's important for every leader, every manager to make sure they're engaging their people that report to them, like directly,
Hmm.
individually, and meet regularly and talk about, how are you doing? What can you improve on? Here's something you're
Hmm.
doing great. Keep it up. And that's another thing, which I think sometimes we spend so much time dealing with the issues and things that need to be improved that we forget to recognize the people who are really performing and doing well for the company. We need to make sure we give them equal time and
Hmm.
encourage that. But um, it's really just meeting individually with those people regularly, and just know that, there's accountability, there's a need to always be improving, and give them some ideas, really, really there to help and encourage that, and then address any shortcomings that need to be fixed and all that. And then meeting with the team as a group. Um, Certainly want to make sure you're congratulating and giving the pats on the back, publicly as a team. But then if there's issues that have to be corrected, you want to do that individually. But whether it's safety or production or whatever, teamwork, ability to work together, all those things should be talked about regularly in one-on-ones with each
Hmm.
person.
Yeah, yeah, that the old adage, praise in public, correct in private.
Right.
And yet you and I both know there's times where you can't help but do something in public. And I was just with a contractor of mine, a guy in Wisconsin, who was having a meeting with one of their general contractors where there had been a couple of incidents on sites where his company, the subcontractor company, didn't perform as expected, and pretty dramatic stuff where somebody wasn't tied off when they should have been. Somebody started pouring concrete before they should have, and it really offended some of the expectations. And so the general contractor safety leaders came to meet with the company. I happened to be there doing some crucial conversation training, and they let me sit in on this. And it was really interesting how skillful they were at saying, we want to cover some things, but before we do, we want to talk about how much we value our relationship. And they truly do. They've been
Mm.
working together a long time, and how much we value and why it's important and how we've worked well together for many years. And they finally got to the point. And recently, two things happened. We don't want to claim perfection, and we're open to feedback from you, but this is what we experienced. No names. They decided not going to name anybody. I kind of already knew some of the names. The guys were in the room. They didn't name them. They didn't point at them. They just said, here's what we heard. And what we heard might have not been perfect, right? They diffused the he said, she said. They said, we don't know if this is perfect, but this is the general idea of what we know happened. And we want you to know this isn't meeting the bar of what we expect. And we want to hold you accountable, just like we want you to hold us accountable. It was very skillful. And I think the message went in, Todd. I don't know if you've seen anything like that, but that was pretty impressive. And I'm getting to know now the top safety guy at that company. In fact, he was just in the conference here and we connected nicely. But that's impressive leadership. And that's breaking the norm of what you're supposed to do when you have to speak to 20 leaders who are the key leaders and give a message. This is, you got to up your
Yeah.
game a little bit, gentlemen. Very
I
skillful done.
I love that story, Tom. And you know, I, I've sat in meetings like that too, where I've watched other people do things like that, and you just walk out going, you learn all the time, right?
Mm.
You
I was
you
learning. I
want,
was taking notes. I'm like, that's a
yeah,
crucial conversation in a group, which is the hardest place to have them.
right, right. And I will say that I've been very fortunate in my career to work with some really good leaders
Hmm.
within my organization and within our customers. And each time you learn, I think when I started in this industry, like 40 years ago, uh, it was very different. But the opportunity to work with really good leadership, entrepreneurial companies that we built for, and the owners and managers that I had, you just learn. You watch what works, and you watch
Hmm.
effective things like that story you just told of how that person handled
Hmm.
that, and you come out of there and go, ah, man, that was really good. I'm gonna try and be more like that, and
Hmm.
uh,
Exactly.
just
Exactly.
yeah,
Which brings me to my last question, Todd, because I'm sure you've
yeah.
either been a part of it or seen it. But that's when have you seen an attempt to change a culture or change a process, but some significant attempt to change something go well or not go so well? Something you've led or been a part of. It doesn't have to be safety, it doesn't have to be, but something cultural where you, because I've done this work, Todd. This is hard. They say three or four out of five attempts to change a culture fail or don't hit the bar. And I've been fortunate to have a couple go really well and a few not go as well. But can you think of one? And
Yeah,
I'm open to anything. Sometimes the failed
yeah,
ones are the best learning, but is there something you can think of?
yeah. Well, I mean, when you I've been working in this business 40 years. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
lots of mistakes and you only
Yeah.
hopefully you learn from them and you don't repeat them too often. And I think the like in terms of culture and managing people,
Hmm.
like when I started, I didn't have any training or education in management or leadership. It wasn't, and culture was you never heard that word in the,
Hmm.
in the 80s. Nobody talked
Yeah.
about culture then.
Nobody.
But I think when I was younger and taking on leadership roles and management, um, the some areas where I would look back and say, gee, I wish I knew then what I knew now, or just trying to implement things, process, procedures, uh, by just, hey, we're going to do it this way and just do it this way, you know. And now after you work in that role and you see that doesn't really work with people. People want to have a voice. They want to have
Yeah.
input. And as the leader, it's my job to make a decision. But if I just make a decision without gathering input and letting people know that their input and their voice is important, um, I may not agree with them. I may not ultimately decide with what they're doing, but they need to feel like they're being heard and listened to, and they have input. And oftentimes they have better ideas than me anyway. So um, we would go that way. But that's where I feel like early on in my career, where I would make decisions or implement things and just, okay, here's how we're doing it, and it doesn't really work. I mean,
Hmm.
people don't go along with it unless they feel like they're part of it. And so now I would say, yeah, we want to hear what you have to say. And not just the other leaders or the other managers. Let's everybody that's on this team or that team, let's get
Hmm.
together and what do you think of that? What do you think? Let's talk about it. And then we may all agree and we'll go that route, or we may not all agree. And then ultimately I got to say, okay, I got all the input and appreciate it. Here's how we're going to go. And I need everybody now, everybody that's in the room that had the chance to give input on it, even if we're not going the way you wanted that decision to go. We need you as part of this team to like get on board and support it, right? Not go down the hall and grouse about it, why they didn't
Hmm.
do it the other way. And that's really important for a good, healthy culture is um, you don't always get what you want in those decision making processes, but you have to make your input known. And then once that decision's made, you really have to embrace it and be part of the team and support it.
Boy, that's really skillful the way you phrase that, Todd. I can almost hear you saying that in a meeting, and I'm sure you have. But you have to almost diffuse the objections or the predictable grousing, right? We know some of the characters in construction, even at high levels. We can all be willful and stubborn and want it our way or think our way's better. And
Right.
but the humility you need as a good leader to approach someone and make them feel important. That I didn't miss that phrase. You've made me feel important, Todd. It's one reason we've gotten along so well. You've treated me with respect always. You've made me feel important. You've brought me into some projects, and that makes a huge difference. And it hasn't always gone the way I wanted or perfect, but you've made me feel important. And between that and then diffusing the predictable objections, those on the team who didn't see it the way you saw it. You kind of know who they are even, right? You have to, as a leader, say, I listened, I appreciate you. Your input was valuable. You might even say, we shifted a little bit. Because of you, we're not doing it this way, we're doing it this
Right.
way. We came a little bit your way, and we understand you might not feel great about it. And we need you on the team. And if you
Yeah.
want to talk some more to me about it, you can. But we are this is how we're going. We need you on the team, right? And sometimes people will drop off the team, Todd, when you set that clear of a direction, if it's a
Hmm.
cultural direction or a core value direction.
Right.
Then and I'm sure you've watched them, they will find the door. And you almost want them to find the door sooner than later. Like they're not going your way, and instead of staying around grousing or causing trouble, almost better, even if they're talented, go somewhere where you can get your vision to happen because this is
Right.
how we're going.
Right. No, that's very true. And then the other side of it is, okay, we make a decision. They're not all, they don't all turn out to be the best decision. You find out later. And when,
Hmm.
you need to have humility and just be willing to say, hey, I made the wrong decision there. You
Hmm.
guys that had the other idea,
That's another
you had the
possibility.
bet. Yeah. So just being willing to, admit when you didn't make the right move
That's
and
right.
be humble and,
Eat the humble,
um,
cut yourself a big slice of humble pie.
right.
Uh, so interesting, Todd. I appreciate that hard-earned wisdom. I'm sure you've had some suffering along the way with some of that, Todd. You seem like you've done it really skillfully, but I'll bet there's been days where it wasn't as skillful as you wanted.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it still happens a lot. I mean, you feel like every day is a learning experience. You learn
Hmm.
something every day, and oh, you made a mistake there. Won't do that again. And yeah,
Yep. And all that's related to safety. To me, that's called creating psychological safety, Todd, which is so important to the
right.
physical safety, to create the trust,
Yeah,
create the relationships, create the teamwork really, and to become a high
right,
performing team.
right.
Um, any
Yeah,
final
and
thoughts you have, Todd, about this?
well, yeah, just what you were just uh, saying there about creating that, and I've learned a lot from you, Tom, and your book and the sessions you did where I was before, and
Hmm.
coming in talking about rank and
Hmm.
making people in the organization feel like their voice does count and that
Hmm.
just because their manager is looking the other way on something safety related that they need to speak up or stop the work and do the right
Hmm.
thing. And that I think that training was very important and
Hmm.
appreciate what I've learned from you.
Well, thank you, Todd. How can people find you if they want to?
DarcySolutions.com. I got my picture on the web page there or LinkedIn or
DarcySolutions.com
yeah.
or LinkedIn, Todd Christopherson.
Yeah, I'm really I love going to work. I love the relationships I've built over the years with customers and coworkers, and um, I'm really proud of some of the people that I've hired and coached and mentored that now are own their own companies and doing
Hmm.
great things. And when
Hmm.
you start out your career, you kind of want to drive down the street and look at the building you built and it kind of
Hmm.
like, but then you get a little later in your career and you start looking at, well, my real legacy would be those people that have maybe learned a thing or two from me and now they're doing bigger and better things on their own.
Beautiful. It's a great comment to finish with, Todd. Thank you so much for your time, for being on the podcast, and we will get the message out to you and some others at Darcy, and it'll be on LinkedIn. And look forward to seeing you the next time.
It's
Take
awesome. Thanks, Tom.
care.
Appreciate the opportunity.